words, test, words, test, words, test, words, words, test, words. I don't know if I'm audible. If I'm audible, can someone put a number 1 in the chat? That'd be absolutely wonderful. Thank you very much. Just to make sure that everything's working. And I'm going to do that before my face arrives on the stream. Because if not, then it'll all be fine, won't it? It'll be fine and dandy and lovely and good. So just let me know. Just pop some ones in. In fact, I'll listen to myself. There we go. Just pop some ones in. Yeah, it works. Cool. Boom. Let's do a bunch of ones. Right. Anyway. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the stream. In which we've got some more football news to discuss. We always have more football news to discuss, don't we? Because Leeds United are approaching the final days of the transfer window after having failed to secure the signing of Facundo Buonanotte and being linked very, very closely with Gus Hamer and the other one that I've forgotten the name of. Well, let's just fix that. There we go. Bilal El Khanous last night. We have a few more little linky links going on, specifically in the form... Well, there's two of them. The first one is Emi Buendia. And I'm going to dive into the Emi Buendia one in a minute's time. I'm just going to sort of approach something that's been mentioned by John Ramskill. Hi Joe, just seen Dolberg going to Celtic. What are Leeds recruitment staff doing? Would be what Leeds are looking for. I don't think so. He's been sort of okay in the Belgian Pro League. I know this because I am the one that is personally responsible for the Belgian Pro League engagement stuff at DAZN. So I've been sort of paying attention to him and noted that he's not been doing much. But I don't think Dolberg is necessarily what we need right now. What we need is a 10 or a right winger, and Emi Buendia is one of those currently at Aston Villa, and currently been told that he is able to find a move away from Aston Villa. These hiccups are going to kill me. It's annoying. So we're going to have a little bit of a deep dive through that. We're going to have a little bit of a conversation about the other link that I have been specifically DM'd about on Twitter, that I don't believe is going to be a thing, but we're going to talk about it. And there is a little bit on the Newcastle home game preview that we need to talk about, which is quite nice. But first off, we're going to start with the Buendia thing, because I think we kind of need to. And we're going to talk about the fact that Leeds look like they are reportedly ready to go on Emi Buendia. Now, this is just one of the many, many links, and it's from one of the sort of Voldemorts of the footballing world, being Peter Rock, because he doesn't tend to be that reliable when it comes to things, but sometimes he gets it right, so you kind of need to talk about him at points. He states that Leeds are set to pounce as Aston Villa have greenlit a move for Emi Buendia, basically saying that they will happily let him leave because they need to balance the books before the end of the window. That's not quite correct. The way that it will work in terms of PSR is they'll have to sell at some point this season, and the summer window is the time at which it is much easier to sell players, but in reality, they have this window, they have the winter window, whatever you want to call it, and they have next summer's window as well. Which, you know, for the selling club, it's better to do in the next summer window anyway. So this is one of those that is very much a pinch of salt and worth a bit of loose discussion rather than diving into it and going, this is going to happen, but it's worth talking about anyway. Sources have apparently said that his long-term future is not going to be at Aston Villa. I'm going to do a quick skim read just to make sure that we're not looking through the absolute bollocks. Sources have told Football Insider that Villa are open to letting Villa leave the club this summer in an attempt to balance the books, alerting their long-time admirers Leeds to his abilities. No, abilities? Availability. It's fucking early, okay? And in addition to that, I'm working at like 10 past 10, so this is fun. Been tipped to bring Buendia back into the first team, but that's not going to happen, I don't think. But Leeds have explored a deal back in January after Emery sanctioned a temporary departure, but he chose the Bundesliga over the Championship, and then if you keep on going, Leeds are in the market for a 10. Buendia would tick a lot of boxes. Stuttgart are also being linked to a lot of different number 10 options. So Stuttgart are the apparent opposition for the signing of Bilal El Khanous as well, which is sort of annoying, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. Everyone is saying that Stuttgart are in the market for a number 10, and like maybe they are. But they've also said that they're looking for someone to replace Voltemade, who has gone to Newcastle. Issue is, Voltemarder's not a number 10. Voltemarder's a number 9. So everyone that's sort of saying, yeah, it's completely expected that he's going to go to Stuttgart because Stuttgart need a 10. They've just let go of a 9 rather than a 10. So it's a little bit confusing. And then various bits and bobs. Is he going to save their window, etc., etc., all this kind of bollocks. And yeah, the Buendia stuff is one of those where I'm not entirely sure where I sit on it, because we know that Emi Buendia is a reasonably good footballer, or at least was a reasonably good footballer before he got repeatedly killed by injuries. For me, the issue sits more around... I'm going to get to the right sort of height. There we go. The issue sits more around, can he get back to the form that he was on earlier on in his career? So this season so far he's played once in the Premier League, which means that he has registered for one side already, which means that he can only register for one more side. But we'll have a look through his numbers and we'll see how he's going. On 75 grand a week, I think we could fairly reasonably expect that one to go down by quite a significant sum, because Buendia is currently not worth 75 grand a week. But in terms of all of his underlying metrics, he's doing fairly reasonably well. So non-penalty goals per 90, better than average. Non-penalty XG per 90, better than average. His assists, no. But his expected assists, a little bit worse than the average, but that's okay, he's not played much football. Passes more than average, completion more than average, progressive passes more than average. He doesn't carry the ball too well, but we know that that's sort of what we're going to get. But as attacking midfielders go, he's someone that will put in the defensive work, which is sort of what we're looking for someone to do. If you have a look at this graph, it's a nice graph, but we have the big concern that surrounds Emi Buendia, and that is the risk of injuries, because across the last season, people will look at it and say that he was unfit and unavailable for a lot of last season. I don't necessarily think that that was the case. I think that instead of that, it's the case of, across these two, he's clearly been at the very least available for 23 of those matches. He was available for more, he just didn't quite make the Leverkusen or Villa benches, because the quality that they have is absolutely ridiculous. But people will look at the number of minutes that he had and go, that's probably not enough. He played something like I'll just do the maths right now, 355 league minutes, which I personally don't think is enough. I think that's in the sort of spooky territory. And admittedly, he's catching up to that already this season so far, having played once in the league for Aston Villa. But Buendia isn't the one that convinces me. I think Buendia is the one that we go to if we can't do Hamer, if we can't do El Kanous. But Buendia is not that high on the list of options that I would personally go for. In terms of in the Premier League, he's never particularly done it. 1 goal, 7 assists once in the Premier League. Fine, that's cool. That was also under Daniel Farke, but that was also, let's do the math, 6 seasons ago. Then he tried in the Premier League again and he got 10 goal involvements. Then he tried again and he got 7. And that's really not necessarily enough for a team that quite desperately need to stay up. Right, Momo, your entire presence is just laughing at people, and I don't quite understand it. Also, what's going on? Because you're quite clearly I've got a theory to test, but I'll see how it goes. But there is a bit of a question around, would he have more impact than the players that we already have, or the players that we've gotten rid of? So if you have a look at the players that have left, I think he would do better than Sam Greenwood did, but is that necessarily good enough? I think he would do better than Mateo Joseph did, because Mateo Joseph has gone over to Mallorca, who are a side that are not going to do especially well this season, especially having added an inexperienced youth striker that hasn't really proven himself very, very consistently, which is a little bit of a problem. I think, to be completely honest with you, Mateo Joseph isn't going to do too much at Mallorca. I'll have a quick look, actually, and see how he's doing. I can see Laji Ramazani doing well at Valencia, because he got an assist last night. I still think it was the right move to let him go for this season, let him develop a bit, but let's have a look. Mateo Joseph has started once, played 2 matches, non-penalty XG of 0.2. He's not done much, has he? Realistically. So he started against Celta Vigo. I kind of want to see what their fans are thinking. But I very much do not reckon that Mateo Joseph is going to come to much, which is interesting, to be honest with you. And I'm kind of a little bit curious about that. But I'm also kind of curious about what Mormor's opinion on this is, because clearly Mormor is potentially from Spain because of the way that he does JAJA as a form of ha 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 ha. So, what are your thoughts? Would you rather have Emi Buendia or Mateo Joseph? I'm very curious. But there is the other deal that I was a little bit informed of. The Buendia thing isn't the one that I think will get done. I think we'll instead go in the direction of Hamer or Bilal El Khanous. But for me, the interesting story again is going to be the one surrounding Edouard Spertsyan. To be clear, I don't think Spertsyan is happening, but I know that Spertsyan is 100% definitely on the market still because of what I've seen from elsewhere. So if I go to my, interestingly, Twitter DMs, I got another DM earlier today from a guy that earlier in the window asked me if Leeds were reportedly linked with Edouard Spertsyan. The guy being called Kirill Radchenko. If you fancy, go over and follow him. He's a nice dude. But he sent me a message saying, "Hello Joe, it's Kirill. Hope you remember me again. Leeds are linked with Spertsyan from Krasnodar." So on their end, Leeds United have those links with Edouard Spertsyan. I think Spertsyan is a very, very good player, to be completely clear with you, and I wouldn't mind assigning him. But I have a little bit of a feeling that there is not much going on with that one, because he then proceeded to ask if I heard anything about it, and then I said nothing recently from the Leeds end, anything specific on yours, to which he responded, "I don't think it's true, but Armeni Football, which is the Armenian football outlet, were reporting it, so he doesn't believe that it's that strong of a source." In essence, I'm talking about this specific story because I think there is a lesson to be learned, and I think there is a lesson that a lot of people might not necessarily learn, and it is the fact that when you are looking at the transfer window and the transfer market and all that kind of thing, there will be stories coming out of absolutely everywhere, because there are football clubs everywhere that are trying to sell their players. There are football clubs everywhere that are trying to hold on to their players. There are football clubs everywhere that are trying to buy players. And all of them have their own little media outlets that they like to talk to. And in addition to that, all of those media outlets are constantly on the hunt for an exclusive or just some sort of deal that they can have a conversation with people about and try and sort of pass on that news to whoever is available to them. Not all of it is necessarily going to be true. This is why when I'm looking at the Pete O'Rourke thing, I'm saying this needs to be with a very, very big pinch of salt, because Pete O'Rourke has a bit of experience in being incredibly inconsistent. And when you have a look at apparently Armeni Football aren't apparently a very good source, and will be having this conversation as a means of going, let's see if we can find that move for Edouard Spertsyan. And thankfully, Mr. Kirill Radchenko, who I am quite fond of now because he just seems like a really, really good dude, is of the opinion that that is not a very good source. And it's quite good, because if you're in our position, then it's sort of really, really difficult to get an idea of like what journalistic sites in different places are accurate. But to be able to like talk to journalists that are in those other places is really, really useful to get an idea of how much they actually know. This is the Armenian dude. The Armenian dude is apparently being sort of linked on the Armenian side with Leeds United, but not being linked on the Leeds United side. And I'll be honest, I personally think the list of targets would go Hamer / El Khanous. Can't get either of those, then you drop to a Buendia. Can't get Buendia, you drop to a Spertsyan. Spertsyan might be higher on that list. I'm not entirely sure. In fact, I might put Spertsyan above Buendia just out of spite towards Peter O'Rourke. But for me, that doesn't necessarily make it a likely thing. And I just thought that it would be right to report that as a potential story rather than to not report that. Because if there is someone that is reporting that there is interest, then it probably needs to be discussed in some way, shape, or form. But you also need to point out that it's not necessarily going to be an accurate thing. Good morning, Jan Vidal. Yeah, I think I agree with what is tending to go. Holy hell, Spertsyan is doing well at the start of this season. Sorry, I might have changed my mind. I'm absolutely all about Edward Spertsyan now, because look at these numbers. If I just look at that. That's kind of ridiculous. 10 goal involvements in 6. 10 goal involvements in less than 500 minutes. That's batshit. I've changed my mind. Can we have Edward Spertsyan, please? Because he's looking a hell of a player right now. Don't think it's necessarily likely to happen, but you know what? You might as well. Those are very, very good numbers. How's the house repairing? The house repairing is okay. I'm going to try and get a little bit of it done today. I think we're getting the plumbing fixed and the cooker wired in today. Not the gas cooker, because the gas cooker would need a gas-safe engineer, and I'm not touching that. But some other bits we're going to be getting done today, which hopefully goes quite well, and we can eventually start cooking meals in the house again, which would be absolutely wonderful, because I miss being able to cook. Surely we can't sign from the Russian league. This is where it gets a little bit confusing. I did think the same, but I'm not sure what the rules are, because there's various players that have left Russia in the past couple of years. Hold on. So if I go to transfer market, and what's the Russian Premier League? Why not? I'll see who's left that league. If I go transfer overview, what's his nationality? He's Armenian, which means that, to be fair, he's on the more genocided side of history, I suppose. Yeah, a bunch of players have already left Russia. So we had Douglas Augusto went from Krasnodar to Nantes. Perrin went from Krasnodar to Auxerre. Zenit St. Petersburg sold to Brazil and Argentina. Has anyone sold anyone to a British club? Because I don't think that's necessarily going to have been the case. A couple of Cypriot clubs in there. Kazakhstan, but I'm not entirely sure that that counts. No, Belarus. Okay, that definitely doesn't count. Belgian sides have been signing Russian players. Bolivians. Croatians. So it feels like it doesn't break any sanctions. So on a legal front, it's fine. It's just a question of would you necessarily want to? Because you've had sides from all across the EU making these moves. So it wouldn't be a sanctions breach, but it would be... Is he in a farmers league? There is a decent level of quality over in the Russian league, to be fair. It's not like insanely good anymore, but it's not a nothing. I did see Harry's goal celebration, and it made me all emotional. What's happened? Okay, so one, we've got a link from... We got two sort of unreliable-ish links to talk about. One of them is from Peter Rock, who has said that Leeds are linked with Buendia. That feels like that's a sort of direct from Buendia's agent kind of thing, saying, look at me, I'm available. Which is fine, I guess. And at the same time, we are linked with Edward Spertsyan, who currently plays for Krasnodar. I'm kind of curious about what his contract looks like, actually. Because I'm sure there's going to be a point where it just runs out. No, hold on. Those were players in. Okay, I'm going to check out to see how much money has actually gone into Russia, because I read that wrong. So Sporting have made a signing from Spartak Moscow. Brazilian sides have made signings. Greek sides, that was a free. The Serbian side. Signing from Sampdoria. Holstein Kiel, but that was on a free. Okay, yeah, fair. Getting players out is looking significantly more difficult. Free transfer seems like it's the way to go if you want to get a player out of Russia. Yeah, fair point. Yeah. I was reading the table wrong the first time out, which isn't great. But yeah, potentially a sanctions nightmare having had another look. So it turns out you can take Russian money, but you can't take their players, which is interesting. I'm going to have a quick look, actually, and see what he's got left on his contract. No, I don't care about the departures. I care about the squad. Come on. Edward Spertsyan, currently their captain. His contract expires in 12 months. So I think, fuck it, sign Spertsyan in 12 months. Maybe free with an off-the-books cash injection to the Russian military. I think even at that point you say, well, I think we just wait 12 months and he comes. That'll do. Because I know that from January, I believe, we're able to negotiate with him anyway if he doesn't renew his contract. If he renews his contract, then it's done. But nothing to stop him just leaving and flying direct to Leeds, just walk out of his contract. Russian FA can do sod all. They can do quite a lot. Because at that point, you're borderline defecting from Russia, and I feel like Russia doesn't particularly care that much about human rights at the minute. So he leaves Russia. If he leaves any of his family behind, his family are in deep shit. So at that point, you say, well, maybe you don't just leave your family to get sent to the Ukrainian front lines. That would be a very, very bad idea. I think we give it 6 months, talk to him, say, do you want to come to Leeds and get out of a war zone? And then that'll probably do it. Russia's never cared about human rights. Yeah, correct. Which is why I think defecting and not bringing absolutely everybody that you know is a bad idea and will lead to problems. So I would rather him not have issues for he and his family. Beyond that, we should probably talk a little bit about the match against Newcastle, in which we have a little bit to be discussed, including, if I just quickly send something over to somebody, a version of the lineup that I've seen from someone that I'm going to send over to someone else for sort of verification and sort of we're holding the source on this one to account so we can potentially look at them in future weeks. Goals. That I've just sent you is what I have had leaked to me as the lineup that I personally don't believe too much, but it's what I've heard. Correct, the person that isn't on the list isn't on the list, and I don't know why. But that's interesting, and we'll talk about it in a little bit. With the sanctions, plus they wouldn't do much, plus his family flies out with him, plus Armenia, not in Russia. But he's not playing in Armenia. He's Armenian, but he's currently playing in Russia, which is sort of where the problem is. He currently plays for Krasnodar, which is firmly in Russia. If he brings his family, the deformed UK idiots will claim that, yeah, but fucking morons. I say this, I'm not saying that all of those that support said group are morons. But it's more of a picking weird culture wars over literally nothing, and it seems to be working, and it's very infuriating. So, for example, when I was walking around town the other day, I walked into town past the one reform pub in the UK, which is fucking stupid. And what they've done is they have whacked up flags, I think I counted at least 30, on lampposts in a 250-metre radius around it. To be like, look, you can wave flags. And I imagine they were sort of like, hopefully everyone takes down the flags and then we can complain, because it's you can't say you're British in Britain anymore. But who knows? The flags are still up, so they can't bitch and moan. Be fine. Anyway. On transfers, you're in the calm or the panic group. I'm currently in the calm group because, and I had a little bit of a chat with Darren of Only Leeds Bros about something earlier on today, and the way that I put it was, I've started looking at things in a wider sense. I don't let the results of a Leeds match affect me beyond like an hour or two post-match, because as Evie has put it, it's a bunch of men kicking a bag of wind. And then we were talking about sort of like YouTube things. So I was like, it's one step further back than that. Does someone click on someone talking about someone kicking a bag of wind? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter too much. Like, it's fine. Everyone's chill. Players in Russia and Ukraine can suspend their not anymore. They can't. There was a period in which they could, and it was a few months, but that period has since come to an end. So you can't just like cut a contract at the moment. I think if person is in, I would probably do that, but it was mentioned to me that it would be more of the formation that I sent you, which I think makes things a little bit interesting and weird. Thanks for that. That's okay. Yeah, in terms of transfer stuff, like if we have the squad to be fine, brilliant. I think we will. But if we don't get 3 more signings in before deadline day, it's not the end of the world. Why don't you complain about all the other flags? I'm not complaining about those flags. I'm complaining about people trying to turn the British flag into a political issue rather than just having it as a flag. You can hang it all you like, but if you hang it and performatively say the words, look at the fucking walkies, take it down, then you're not doing it because you want to hang a flag. At that point, you're doing it because you want to make a point to someone. And it's like, you can have pride in a thing without being a dick to people. It's fine. Yeah, I've not complained about any flag, to be completely clear with you. See, Largy got an assist. He did get an assist. But then again, I still stand by the fact that in the moment it's the right move for him to be the person that goes on loan. Because at the end of the day, you look at our wing options, we needed to lose one of our left wingers, and the left winger that it makes sense to lose was the guy that is further down in the pecking order that someone actually has an interest in. Like, no one is interested in signing Jack Harrison at the minute, which is why we can't get rid of Jack Harrison at the minute. By comparison, people wanted Laji Ramazani, which makes it easier to shift him than Jack Harrison. The people that are looking at like, why don't we just get rid of Jack instead? Because we can't. Because no one wants to sign Jack. That's the difference. 3 days before the transfer window closes, hope we get the players and we want, then carry on for the season. Come on, we can do this. We can absolutely do this, and I think we'll be heading in the right direction. Hang on. Ramazan loan only, not sold, good for him, Anders. Yeah, it helps him to develop significantly more. It makes sure that we free up a little bit of wage space, and it helps Valencia out. It's the opposite of the Buonanotte move. The Buonanotte move doesn't benefit him because he's not going to play much. Doesn't benefit Chelsea because they're just paying for someone who isn't going to play much. It doesn't benefit Brighton because their player isn't going to play much and is not going to develop at all. Like, the main point was stick around in the UK, get your like homegrown status. Sure, you can do that whilst playing a bit of football. You don't have to do, like, so stupid. And then at the same time, they just signed Julio and Caesar. At least for Strasbourg, so stupid. Fucking Blueco. Pathetic. We're actually going to sign anyone else? Yes, we are. We're not done. iMac, I'm not going to fall for that one. But I'm going to say... I'll be optimistic. I like being an optimist. I'm going 2-1. To us. Because why not? Because if you approach every single game of football going, we're just going to lose, then it's no fun. Okafor is going to be directly compared or whatever to Ramazani, so it does pressure straight away. Yeah, but I think Okafor is at least the level of Ramazani. And I think the difference is going to be that we're going to see Okafor playing a lot more consistently. Whereas Ramazani was a case of you'll start a couple of times, and in those starts he did reasonably well. And off the bench he did reasonably well, but that's because we didn't see him over that extended period, which I think is the difference. Language. No, I refuse, and it's English. Largely only comes back if we're relegated. I don't think that's going to happen. A, I don't think we're getting relegated. But B, I think Largely coming back is the reason that we didn't put a sell on in there. Same for Mateo Joseph. We don't particularly want to let go of players at the moment. Let's be honest, nobody decent wants to sign for us. That's kind of bollocks. It's less a case of... To be clear, Thomas, right? This isn't me insulting anyone that votes in that direction. You can vote that direction if you want. This is me having a go at the people who are actively sort of like doing things out of spite because they feel like they can make other people mad about something, right? Like, I don't care who you vote. That's fine. The point on the flags thing was, if your entire purpose of doing that is so you can make someone else look angry, then all you're trying to do is anger someone. Those same people won't have done that same thing if it weren't for the fact that they think that someone else is going to get grumpy and take down a flag. Vote whoever you want, sure, but do it without actively trying to make someone fucked off. That's where I sit on it. It's the same as all of the rules that I have in my chat, which effectively boils down to, don't be racist, obviously. Don't do any form of discrimination in terms of being sexist, as we've seen towards various women that I've had on the channel. Don't do homophobia, because obviously. What else is on that list? And just don't be abusive to anyone in the chat. That's it. You can have whatever political view that you want. As long as you're not doing any of those things, you're fine. That's it. The no sell-ons are because we want to increase in value, then we can get a higher exit value. That's a fair point. Thank you, Carl. Not worried about getting a striker, we just need to play with flair up front to provide for the strikers we have. That's the... Yeah, don't be a dick, is basically it. I can't put that in my chat guidelines. I should probably write some chat guidelines. Marching on together. Exactly. Be like the collective. I don't give a shit who you vote for, as long as you do so in a way that isn't actively being horrible to other people. But like, obviously I would care if you voted for like the Nazi Party of West Yorkshire. But beyond that, fuck it. Sad to hear you're woke and deluded. What the fuck? Come on. If people don't like our national flag, maybe go elsewhere. Again, I didn't say that anyone didn't like... I'm saying that if you're hanging a flag to be a cunt, you're a cunt. That's it. That's the extent of it. If you're hanging it because you have pride in it, go for it. That's fine. The same way that if you're hanging a gay pride flag because you are gay and you want to have pride in that, go for it. Brilliant. But if you're doing so to try and make a point to make someone else angry, grow up. That's it. Can we not talk about Leeds? We can talk about Leeds. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cap off the Spertsyan poll and I'm going to see what people's opinions are. Also, to be fair, you know that when it gets to a politics chat, I've got to go for it. To be clear, for anyone that doesn't know, I've got 2 politics degrees. So when people go into the politics direction, I've got to wade in. But thank you for bringing me back to reality. Let's go to start a poll. Let's go to... What do you think? Thank you. I appreciate it. What do you think the result is today? Do we go with a Leeds win? Do we go with a draw? Do we go with a Newcastle win? And I want a prediction. I don't want what you want to happen. I want to know what you are predicting will happen. If you think you want Leeds to win, but you think Newcastle will, put Newcastle win. If you want a draw, but you think it'll be a Newcastle win, put a Newcastle win. I don't want people to sort of do the fluffy faffing. No, we're going to see what people actually think this time. And we're going to see where we land. With the question of, what do you think the result will be today? Ooh. 49ers not putting a release clause at the end of Ramazani's hints that they think Farke won't be able. I don't think that's the case. Peter Spot. Yeah, I have very much gone through the entire thing of being like, it's very probably nothing, but we got to talk about it. In the same way that the Spertsyan stuff is very probably nothing, because I'll find out what the name of the thing was again. Armeni Football have reported that Leeds are back in for Spertsyan, and Mr. Russian journalist man reached out to me on Twitter and was like, have you heard anything on the Leeds side from this? And I was like, I've not heard anything on the Leeds side from this. And if you add to the fact that I'm not entirely sure that we can legally do that given sanctions, having had a look at Transfermarkt, we'll have to find out. Joey won't win the battle with certain people. Wood for the trees. 2-1 for me. That's fair. I thought we'd get a point against Newcastle this time last week. Not so sure now. I think we go for a point. A point is what I'm sort of vibing with at the moment. That'd be quite nice. Everyone was laughing at Man United on Wednesday and Leeds on Tuesday, but no one seemed to mention Sunderland. I think no one mentioned Sunderland because they were on the same day as something funnier happening. Because they did lose on the same night that Scum did, right? Because if so, then that explains it, because everyone's sort of looking at the Scum match instead. Which is kind of an interesting one. Currently in predictions, we have 24% of you think that Leeds will win, 45% think it will be a draw, and 31% that Newcastle will win. Also, I have entered a thing, right? And this is a new thing. Hold on. Apparently we may have a parcel between 10:14 and 11:14. Which is bad for me, because I rolled out of bed and I started streaming, which means that I'm currently here in some like pajama shorts. So I'm going to whack on some trousers very quickly off camera. This is the most professional stream you've ever seen. Evidently. All I really want is a performance, but I hope for a point. That's where I'm sat on it, to be honest. Like, I will absolutely take a point, but I want us to look like we're a football team whilst we're doing it. Right, let's make sure I'm not going to get my legs out for the postie. And then we're sorted. Bosh. Someone was Tuesday on Pens against Town. Ah, okay. It's being Huddersfield, right? I hope so. Am I not a member anymore? That's strange. Wayne! Wayne, how dare you? Well, you can become a channel member by paying $2.99 a month, and you get a bunch of videos and things early, and I'm considering doing things like my Football Manager streams for members as well, or something like that. I don't know. But if you fancy it, if you fancy supporting the channel and you fancy helping me being able to do this a little bit more consistently, then you can be a channel member. I have done. Oh, I don't know why that's not showing. Hang on, I'll have a quick look. See if you are considered one on YouTube Studio. And if you haven't as well, you can subscribe to the channel. It's the button down here, and it's free to press. And it basically, right, okay, so in terms of YouTube stuff, you don't get any extra more money for having more subscribers. It just helps with views, but it really helps from like an algorithm point of view. So if you subscribe to a channel based on a video, it pushes that video to more people, because it's like, damn, people like this, and more people are going to have a look at it, which is quite useful. And it's genuinely very helpful to the channel and all that kind of stuff. As is liking. And we're nearly 100. I love doing these shill bits, because, like, I just get to be unabashedly like, please help me. Please. The channel needs it. I see Newcastle spanking us, unfortunately, 3-1. I think we'll be relatively okay. What's that new hype thing all about? I don't know. I've not done a short form video since it came out. I think it's a case of you can hype something like 3 videos per week, maybe? Which is good for sort of pushing that video out more if more people hype it. So if I do videos in the next couple of days, I'm going to tell you guys to hype the shit out of them. And if you do so, that'll be lovely. I've not cancelled it anyway. I'll look into it later when I feel better and my brain works better. Yeah, I've not changed anything about the back end on it either. So it might be a case of it glitched out on a payment or something and it stopped doing it consistently. I don't know, but it'll be something like that. But yeah, I don't know what's going on with the hype thing. But I do know It hypes up the streamer and helps with getting videos out too. Oh, lovely. Anyway, I'm going to have to go because in 0 minutes my work shift starts. Today I'm working on FP3 for the Formula 1, qualifying for the Formula 1. Then it's the Leeds match, and then I believe it's the Inter match. That's tomorrow. Why is that tomorrow? What match do I have today? Some absolute fucking donut has put that on the wrong day. That's good. Okay. Right, I've got something to fix then, because everything is broken. Anyway. Life's simple, we don't have to hate because we disagree. Yeah, this is where I'm sat. If you disagree with someone on something, that's fine. That's kind of what we've got democracy for. And conversation, and all that kind of stuff. Anyway. What I'm going to do, I'm going to leave that there. But I hope you all enjoyed the stream. If you did, I know Inter don't play today, someone messed up. So I've got FP3, qualifying, Leeds match, done for the day. Which should be nice. I might be able to squeeze in a stream afterwards in that case. But anyway, I hope you all enjoyed. Like, subscribe, all the fun stuff. And yeah, I will see you all later. And people are predicting a draw, then a Newcastle win, then a Leeds win. Anyway. Real Madrid versus Mallorca on Disney tonight. That's going to be funny. Just don't disagree on Joe Schmal. No. You can disagree with me. I will just disagree with you back. That's how it works. Have a good one. I shall do, Mr. Whitesnake, and I shall potentially... Oh, also, over on Big Up. Go to Big Up. Go to Joe's stream on Big Up. He's running a new Fantasy League kind of game. It's $3 American to enter it. But there is a lovely little prize pool. I've entered it. So see if you can beat me. Who knows? Anyway. See you later. I'll see if there's a redirect first, actually. That might be a good idea. No. Nobody is redirectable. Anyway.